Hello everyone, my name is Meridar and I will be talking about Aurora Builder. So, the point of this series will be a set of tutorials on how to code content for Aurora Builder and to share openly what the community has been doing, i.e. our legacy. So the other thing is also want to share the limitations of the program. So as we go into some code and we'll see what things can we do, what things can't we do with Aurora Builder. Now the program to use that I recommend, as well as some other people who create content, is Visual Studio Code. The reason for that is because the community is widely uses it, and it has a number of features that speeds up the coding process, and we'll dive into that later. The other part of that is Workspace. So the Workspace is a feature of Visual Studio Code that makes it easier to reference code. It's easy to look up IDs, names, things that you want to look at that is already made within Aurora Builder. And lastly, extensions. There are a couple of cool extensions you can get that helps with speeding up the code of Aurora Builder. So where do you start? So let's get into the Workspace. So I will link a link in the description going into what a Workspace looks like. But if you see on the screen here, I have this test folder I have here, and going into it, I have this workspace file. It's called a code workspace. You can generate that if you follow the video in the description. You can double click this and then it will open up Visual Studio Code and show you all the content that you have selected. So if let's say I'm coding a class that has that's similar to Monk, I can look at that. If there's a class that has unarmed, I can look towards unarmed defense, unarmored defense. Sorry. So after that, and so we can go to items here. So I'll get to turn items or feats and how they're coded. I can do that. Backgrounds, the custom background. A bunch of cool things you can do here. So next, in terms of coding, what the usual recommendations are if you want to start coding for Aurora Builder in the XML format are races, items, class archetypes, subclasses, whatever you want to call them, feats, spells, so on and so forth. We don't really recommend creating a class for your first code, but if you really want to do it and you have the passion for it, you can definitely do it. It will be a bit difficult, but with the series, we'll be getting into classes as well. Visual Studio Code, or VS Code for short, is an integrated development environment. It will be used for coding in not just XML, but also other coding languages. The workspace given by Visual Studio Code is a useful tool for efficient coding. As the name says, it's going to show how you're going to look up things coded in Aurora. I'll have a video link in the description or sidebar to show how to set it up. Also, the coding language that Aurora reads is XML, which is fairly similar to HTML. We will discuss the formatting in the following video. Snippets. So there's a tool in Visual Studio Code called Aurora Legacy Snippets. It's a Visual Studio Code extension that is created by the community in order to help speed up coding. So this is it basically creates templates for you in order to make code a bit faster. Instead of having to look up a specific feat thing or a class feature, it generates it for you. It can speed up workflow, but we'll be diving into that in the next video and the use cases for that and how to be fast with it. And lastly, as I mentioned a lot of times before, I'm just kind of shilling it out. Aurora Legacy is a community-based Discord, kind of based on continuing to create content. It is a legacy because the developer of the project has since abandoned the project. They don't really update any more things for Aurora Builder. Patreon is dead. If you want content, including Tasha's Cauldron and everything, including the Ranger options, for example, talking to Patreon, which is inactive, kind of sucks because you won't get any help with it. Aurora Legacy has its own links. It has updated and more efficient versions of the files. The files you find on the website is not that good. The files you find on the website is not optimized, as well as is missing a lot of books that is not up to date. You don't have Xanathars, you don't have Tasha's, you don't have Candlekeep Mysteries or Witchlight, whatever. Lots of books are missing from the website and from the Patreon, including some Spelljammer stuff. If you really want to get the up-to-date content, please join the Aurora Legacy Discord. Also have a link to that in the description. In this series of the tutorials, I will be making a couple of episodes how to create different types of code. So the next episode we'll be covering the fundamentals of XML, the formatting that's used specifically for the Aurora Builder to analyze, as well as using that information to create a race/species depending on what you prefer. After that, we have making an archetype. So this involves creating an archetype for a martial class, so probably a fighter or a rogue. This is like a subclass. In episode 3, we're going to be making a spell. In episode 4, we are going to make a feat. In episode 5, we're going to be making a martial class. In episode 6, we'll be doing a spell casting class. In episode 7, we're going to be going over items, proficiencies, and other equipment. In episode 8, we are going some other elements, including backgrounds, DDs, and so on. And in episode 9, we'll be making a GitHub repository in order to upload our content to share with others. This is a optional step. You do not need to do that. But it does help if you are making books that are available online, either through Reddit or GM Binder. If you want to have this whole thing compiled so people can download it all at once, then that tutorial will be for you, but not required if you just want to share files through Discord or other means. So in conclusion, the video shows how to set up and some of the context to Aurora Builder and the legacy project. In the next video, we'll be going over how to make a simple race/species of sub-races and going a bit over anatomy of the elements, kind of what I discussed about the formatting. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to add, feel free to comment. Subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified when the next video comes out. Until then.